Framed and Forgotten, How I Exposed My Brother's Destruction of Our Family. It all started with a receipt. A simple, inconspicuous piece of paper that would change everything. A $3,000 payment to the nursing home. I didn't think much of it at first, but my brother Marcus, casually leaving it on the kitchen counter during one of our weekly visits, had a strange way of mentioning it. 3 times, in fact, he brought it up. Almost like he was trying to draw my attention to it without directly saying anything. That's when I first felt the flicker of doubt. But I ignored it, brushing it off as nothing more than his usual rambling. I shouldn't have. I'm Thomas, 35 years old, and for the last few years I've been the steady one in the family. The one who took care of everything behind the scenes, mom's accounts, bills, finances, the sort of quiet job no one really notices until something goes wrong. But when my mother was diagnosed with early onset dementia, it became my responsibility to keep her affairs in order. That was fine by me. I was content with the routine, with the comfort of knowing I could help. But that receipt, left so carelessly, was the beginning of something that would upend everything. After Marcus left, I sat down and started going through mom's bank statements just to double-check things, and that's when I saw them: irregular withdrawals. Small at first, but over time they added up. $42,000 missing over just 4 months. Payments I didn't set up, amounts that didn't match the usual monthly charges. I called the nursing home to verify, and they confirmed they hadn't received anything beyond the standard payment. That's when the knot in my stomach tightened. Something was off, and I wasn't going to stop until I figured out what. The following day, Marcus called an emergency family meeting. I walked into his house, expecting a typical discussion about mom's care, maybe some updates on her condition. Instead, what I got was an ambush. The moment I stepped through the door, I knew something was wrong. The air was thick with tension. Marcus, standing by the fireplace with a cold, calculating expression on his face, held a stack of documents in his hand. "I've been looking into things," he said, his voice almost too calm, too practiced. "And it seems someone has been stealing from our mother's accounts." A chill ran down my spine. My heart pounded, but I held my ground even as he spread the papers across the table in front of me: bank statements, transaction records, emails. Every paper seemed to accuse me. I tried to keep my voice steady. "What is this, Marcus? I didn't take any money. I've been managing her finances. Why would I steal from her?" His eyes narrowed. "It's all here, Thomas," he said, pointing to the forged signatures on some of the documents, the online shopping charges, the gambling websites, charges I had never seen before. "You've been using her funds for your own addiction. This isn't just a mistake. This is theft." The room went silent. I could see the doubt in their eyes, the disbelief. Rachel, my own sister, looked at me like she didn't know who I was anymore. She turned away, unable to meet my gaze. My aunt and uncle, who'd always had my back, now stood behind Marcus, their faces clouded with judgment. It was like someone had flipped a switch in them. "You've always been the quiet one," Marcus continued, his tone shifting just slightly, a trace of feigned sorrow seeping into his words. "But now it's clear, isn't it? You've been taking advantage of mom's condition. You've been gambling, buying things online, all with her money." I tried to explain, to tell them about the strange withdrawals, the payments that didn't add up. But Marcus was ready. He had an answer for everything. He painted me as the villain so convincingly that I almost started to doubt myself. He even showed the fabricated emails, those emails he'd made look like they came from me. It was all too perfect. I couldn't keep up. Before I knew it, I was standing there alone, my family turning their backs on me. My own flesh and blood, people I trusted, had been so easily manipulated. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but the weight of their silence crushed me. I was kicked out of the family gathering without a second glance. Before I share what happened next, the moment that shattered everything I knew about my family, I want to connect with you, my amazing viewers. Where are you watching from? Drop your country's flag in the comments below. And if you've ever had to fight for something you believe in, hit that like button, because this story is just getting started. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was a complete unraveling of my entire life. I was left out in the cold, not just by Marcus, but by everyone I'd grown up with. Even my attempts to reach out and defend myself felt hollow. The walls they built around me were impenetrable, and I was the outcast. The person who once held the family together had now been painted as the criminal. It was just the beginning. The days that followed felt like I was walking through a nightmare I couldn't escape. Marcus had taken control of everything: mom's finances, the family's trust, and even the little shred of dignity I had left. The family rallied around him like puppets caught in his strings, and I became the villain in a story I never wrote. I hired a lawyer, hoping for a chance to clear my name, but the evidence against me was overwhelming. There were forged signatures, transaction records, emails, proof that seemed irrefutable. My lawyer was blunt. Thomas, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but right now the best option is to wait. Let the truth come out on its own. I wanted to scream. Wait? For how long? What if the truth never surfaced? I couldn't just sit back and let him destroy me. I had to do something. So, while the rest of the family continued to support Marcus, I began my quiet investigation. I started documenting everything. Every conversation, every email, every strange occurrence, I saved it. It became my obsession. I tracked Marcus's movements, studied his behaviors, and pieced together everything I could. If I was going to clear my name, I knew I needed more than just my word. I needed hard evidence, something irrefutable. Slowly, the cracks in Marcus's perfect life began to show. His luxury car, the one he'd always flaunted, was suddenly gone. In its place was a cheap sedan, nothing like the flashy cars he used to show off. It was a small change, but I noticed it. Then I saw it again, his social media accounts. Marcus, the man who used to post every vacation, every family event, now went silent. No more pictures of tropical getaways or perfect family moments. One afternoon, while I was at the grocery store, I overheard a conversation between Marcus and his son, Ben. Why do I have to move schools? Why do we have to leave everything behind? Ben's voice cracked with frustration. Marcus didn't respond right away. Instead, I could hear him sighing, his voice low, like he was trying to mask his panic. It's just for a little while, Ben. Things will get better, I promise. I felt my chest tighten. I couldn't hear it anymore. Ben was caught in the same storm I was, trying to hold onto a life that was slipping away. I knew at that moment Marcus wasn't just hiding something, he was falling apart. I may have lost the family's trust, but Marcus's perfect world was starting to crumble. His mask was slipping, and I could see the cracks widening with every move he made. And I had all the time in the world to watch it unfold. The game wasn't over yet. I wasn't going to let him win. Not without a fight. Months passed, and as time wore on, Marcus's perfect life continued to spiral downward. His real estate business, once thriving, began to falter. Listings sat unsold, commissions dried up, and rumors started to circulate about his financial instability. His luxury car, the one I'd once seen as his symbol of success, disappeared, replaced by a beat-up sedan. His home, the one he had always bragged about, was now in foreclosure. Lily, his wife, who had always been so kind and trusting, started picking up extra shifts at the school just to make ends meet. As everything around him crumbled, I kept my distance, but I never stopped working. The more I dug, the more I learned. I was getting closer, piece by piece, to uncovering what Marcus had been hiding. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, the breakthrough came in the most unexpected way. Ben, his 15-year-old son, reached out to me. It was late one evening when I got a text from an unknown number. The message read simply, "Uncle Thomas, can we talk? Dad's acting weird. I think you should know." I was shocked. Ben had always seemed distant, wrapped up in his own teenage world, but now he was reaching out to me? I agreed to meet him the next day at a coffee shop near his school. He was there when I arrived, sitting at a corner booth, looking smaller than I remembered, like he'd grown up too fast. "Uncle Thomas," he began quietly, "I've been hearing things. About Dad. He's been acting strange, he's been sleeping in his office, saying he's working late, but he's not." I frowned, unsure of what he was getting at. "He's gambling, Uncle Thomas. He keeps saying he's working, but I know he's not." I found something in his jacket, Ben continued, pulling out his phone. He slid the phone across the table to me, and there it was, a photo of a ledger filled with dates, names, and amounts that matched perfectly with the missing money from Mom's account. The realization hit me like a freight train. Marcus hadn't just been gambling away money, he had been laundering it. The numbers in the ledger, the amounts so familiar, tied everything together. He'd been hiding his criminal activities behind his addiction. His real estate business, his perfect family image, everything he'd built was just a cover for something far darker. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was something much bigger, and it was time to bring it all to light. I couldn't let this go. For months, I'd been playing catch-up, trying to find the truth, but now, with this new piece of evidence in my hands, everything was starting to fall into place. Marcus had been using our mother's funds to cover his tracks, all while deceiving the family and covering his own criminal activity. I knew this was my chance to finally end his web of lies. There was no turning back now. I knew the moment had come. The moment I had been waiting for, when the truth would finally surface and everything Marcus had done would be exposed. I couldn't keep this information to myself any longer. Lily, his wife, deserved to know the truth before anyone else. I had watched her, stood by her side while Marcus's lies went unnoticed, and I wasn't going to let her be kept in the dark any longer. When I showed her the bank statements, the photos, and the emails Marcus had fabricated to frame me, I could see her world shatter in real time. Her face went pale, her eyes wide in disbelief. It was as if the weight of the truth was too much to bear. I never knew, she whispered, her voice trembling. All these years I thought he was just stressed. I thought it was just bad luck. Her shoulders sagged as the truth set in. But we've been living in a lie. I nodded, feeling a pang of sympathy for her. Lily, the house, it's in foreclosure. Marcus has been hiding this from you for months. The kids have no idea how deep they're in. Her breath hitched, and for a moment she just stared at me, her face a mix of grief and anger. I don't even know what to say. But I could see it in her eyes. She was finally seeing the man she married for what he truly was. And it was heartbreaking. The final confrontation came when Marcus, cornered and desperate, made a decision that sealed his fate. That night, he showed up at our mother's nursing home, drunk and out of control, trying to force his way inside. The staff, knowing the history, tried to stop him, but he was relentless, shoving past them, demanding to see Mom. The security footage captured every moment. His rage, his entitlement, his complete disregard for anyone else. I didn't hesitate. I sent the footage, along with everything else I had, every piece of evidence, every document, to the authorities. Within hours, Marcus's world started to unravel. It wasn't me who took him down, it was the people he had been stealing from. The ones whose money he'd been laundering, whose trust he'd betrayed. They came for him, and they didn't show mercy. The law came next, and Marcus was left with no choice but to flee. I watched as his life crumbled before my eyes, the man who once seemed untouchable now running for his life, desperate to escape the consequences of his actions. And in the wake of his destruction, the family began to pick up the pieces. Lily, despite the pain, began to rebuild. She started a new life with the kids, away from the shadow of Marcus's lies. And as they adjusted to this new reality, I found myself in a role I never expected to play, the stable figure in their lives. The one they turned to for guidance, for support. It started small, but it was enough to make me realize the depth of the change. Ben, his son, called me Dad one afternoon, not as a title, but as a simple expression, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Hey, Dad, can you help me with my homework?" he asked, and for a moment I could hardly believe it. It was strange, yes, but it felt real. It felt right. In that small, unspoken moment, I understood that redemption wasn't just about clearing my name, it was about becoming something they all needed. The family I never imagined I would have, built from the rubble of betrayal and broken trust. The truth had been revealed, and with it everything had changed. And somehow I had found my place in their lives.